Hi, everyone. Jeff Cote here with boatingtechtalk.com. We have a question from a fellow boater. Robert is about undertake a big project. Robert asks, Jeff, I'm beginning a rewire of a center console boat and was looking for tips on proper wire management and neatly securing the wire inside the console. How should I start this project? Hey, good question, Robert. Well, first of all, as we all know, and some of us certainly obsess over this, order when it comes to electrical wiring is super important. Super, super, super important. Because why? Because when you look at something that is unorganized, you know or you doubt if it was done properly, right? It's very, very rare for us as electricians to come aboard a boat that has very neatly wiring and it's done wrong. Generally, I don't know why, but the people that worry about the details of how something looks are the same people that worry about details of doing it right. So there seems to be some sort of correlation there between the two. So A, it's going to be really good for resale. That's one thing. Second, it's much easier to troubleshoot a wiring that is all neat. So I agree with Robert on why I too would do it properly. So what you want to start thinking about is, are you going to be terminating all the wires from all the different things on your boat directly to the switches? Or are you, and these switches are switches on the boat, turn different things on, are you going to be terminating everything directly? Or instead of bringing things directly to the switches, are you going to be terminating them on terminal strips and then have these looms of wires that go from the switches to the terminal strips and from the terminal strips to the loads? Big fan of using terminal strips for terminating loads. Big boats use that. I did it on my Catalina. It really makes things super easy. You never have to end up changing the loom from the terminal strips to the switches. So that would be one tip that I would give. The other thing is label, 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 label. Even if it's your own boat and you have a perfect memory, honestly, I was shocked when I realized that I had forgotten certain things about my own boat that I did. And I didn't remember what that wire was for, thinking, how could I ever forget something that I had done on my boat? You know, and my boat to me is not just sort of this thing. It's almost like a living entity. It's an entity that has a soul. And I'm thinking, how could I ever forget what I had done on that boat? Because everything I do on that boat is about love. And I did. And the reality is that time does erase certain things, even for things that we love. So label, label, label. The other thing too is create a wiring schematic and have it nearby. It doesn't have to be perfect. You know, some of us don't have computer skills. That's okay. You know, even if it's a hand sketch works. So definitely draw it out. And don't just draw it out at the end. You think about it. When we build houses, you know, does the architecture or the architect come at the end of the project and say, hey, you know what? I'm going to actually give you plans of the house you built? Or is he going to, or are they going to give you plans for the house you plan on building? So to save time, the best thing is to draw it out all on paper prior to starting. That's when you have control. That's when a change takes seconds to erase, literally seconds to change. And that's fine. At least have the intent of building to an architecture that you thought about. And then if you're making modifications along the way, then of course, update the diagrams or the schematics to reflect reality. That'd be another one. The other thing too is having wires think about, okay, well, how am I going to, in that center console, how am I going to have the wires come from, you know, the deck up? Are you going to have multiple channels? Are you going to have AC, DC wiring? If there's AC, DC wiring, you want to have them in separate bundles. So that would be one thing I would do as well. Make sure you use heat shrink connectors on everything. Even if they're more expensive, our time is the most valuable thing for most of us. Some people have more time than money, but for a lot of us, time is a very rare thing. And so my adage there is saying, okay, since I know that I have a little bit of money and I have practically no time, if I'm going to do something on my boat, I want to do it once. Ideally, right? I mean, it's sort of the perfection that we're shooting for. And the way to do that is having tin wire, having proper heat shrink terminals. And again, if you do that properly, the other one too is look up the code for color wire colors, right? Why not choose different colors for different things? Some boaters, and I've seen it, do the whole boat in black. Not a big fan. Not a big fan. At the very least, have red and black or red and yellow for positive and negative for DC. But also remember, you know, there's other colors. Different things have different colors. So take the time and buy maybe more spools of wire. And yes, I know it's going to hurt because you're going to be like, oh, I'm going to have leftover. But again, this project should be done. No one should ever, once you're done that center console, Robert, no one should touch that in 20, 30, 40 years. So if you're going to do it right. Sometimes on the channels, what we end up doing is, you see that on bigger boats, they actually have sort of like these channels, and they put these sort of, they're more for, I guess, land-based. A lot of people here are like, on my boat, I use a lot of zip ties with saddles so that I create bundles. I make sure that it's not too tight, but tight enough so it's aesthetic, but not so tight that it could generate heat. And the other thing too is, if you got large DC wires, you might have different routes for different things. That would be the other one. And lastly, don't forget about fusing. And again, it should be on your schematics, and figure out what is the right fuse and where should that fuse be located. And remember, many of us, and I've seen it all too often, think that the only thing that deserves to be fused is the appliance and not the wire. Don't fall prey to that. That happens too often. You need, when you're working on your boat, to protect not only, of course, the appliance, but the wire connecting the appliance to your electrical system. So the fuse, there has to be protection, circuit protection, at the start of the circuit. And you can have a fuse further downstream that's specific to the appliance, but make sure that every single circuit on your boat, and the only one that could be an exception is the starter circuit, and that's the only one. And some of us are fusing starter circuits, but you don't have to. Everything else should be fused. So Robert, that's a great question. Cool project, and honestly, it's extremely rewarding. And anybody who undertakes doing wiring on your boat, you're going to build up confidence that when something goes wrong, you got this. And that is definitely part of the boating experience. So good on you, Robert, for tackling this project. And thanks for all of you for watching. And if you've got comments or feedback on how you would do it on your boat, or how you've done it on your boat, please add those comments down below. It adds a whole wealth or breadth of sort of perspectives. And there's no right or wrong answer here. We're all chasing perfection. And that path to perfection is, sometimes ups and downs. But as we share, we all learn. And as we learn, we all get better boats. So thank you, Robert, for asking. Thank you for watching this PYS video. If you've got further questions, please ask them below or send us an email via the contact forms on our website. Happy to donate my time to share information with you. You can support us in keeping this channel ad-free by purchasing some merchandise on our store, or by making a donation on PayPal. And don't forget to subscribe. Thanks again for watching.